Yeah.
Well, lovely to see you, Erna. Thank you for coming along for this interview.
I'm happy to be here.
This celebration of Bill Naughton's centenary. It's amazing.
Yeah, imagine that.
Can I take you back to when you first met Bill? When it was and what you first thought of him?
Well, I can tell you, I've just told that young woman there when I met him, and I said I was 19. I was one day less than 19 when I met him.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her, I said, he told me long afterwards one day, I know when you met me, you thought I was an old geezer. Well, geezer has gone out, hasn't it?
Has.
No one ever mentions geezer. Yeah. Oh, anyhow. So anyhow, but I never did, except he was 20 years older than myself. But you don't really. And he was the first writer or Schriftsteller, like, that we, so of course you're flattered at 19, but by then he had published 2 or 3 books, and he had written stories, and so he was really, ever since I knew him, he was a writer.
Right. So what year was this, can you remember?
Might have been 55.
Right.
Might have been 55. Yeah, because then I took up nursing.
Yes.
Because at home, I think I told you, I started dental mechanic, and I thought, well, that's fine, I do that, carry on in England. Mm-hmm. But in England, at that time, foreigners could only do domestic, factory, or nursing. Well, I said, this is all right, I go with nursing, because I've been at home, I've been together with young girls too, and I had no money, so that was lovely, and I did almost 4 years.
So can I ask, was it mutual attraction straight away?
Well, I made a note, and you see, mutual attraction, it's lovely. I was flattered by having met him and knowing him, and he was quite a handsome, attractive man. But then, as I said, people tell you, oh, you're looking very well, or you're looking attractive or something. Mm-hmm. It always comes from the outside. You never think of it, do you? Mm-hmm. No. And so we got on really very, very well. And the fact that he was older and he could teach me a lot, kind of thing, and my English was poor. But by the time I finished nursing, almost 4 years later, he knew quite a lot about hospitals. Because, hospitals, have you been? Are you going? And that's about all you know.
Yes. Yeah.
So after 4 years, and then soon after that, he had asked me long before that about getting married, but I thought, having started, I might as well. I was quite happy doing it. And so we got married then. And London in the 50s, 60s, bigger plays on. And I remember very well when he had the first play on All in Good Time, which is now After.
Yes.
And that was such a success in London. And letters would always get lost or mixed up with something. And we lived on a beautiful square. On 64 we were, and 67 would be at the other side of the square, kind of. You had to cross the garden. And so I phoned the bank one day and asked them if they could see that the letters would come to us. And he said, well, now that Mr. Naughton is more notorious, letters will be coming to you. Okay? And I thought notorious was a bit of a, he hasn't just come out of prison or something.
Right, yes, interesting word.
So anyhow.
I was going to ask you about when he was aware, or you were perhaps aware, that he was actually a famous writer rather than just a writer. Would it be with that play, All in Good Time, or did it occur before then?
All in Good Time really was a turn, really, suddenly, and it really was a success. And I remember before we left home, before we went to the theatre, Bill said, let's make sure we go to the last row because it will be out. And we knew the theatre very well, and we knew Bernard Mars, of course, and so on. But then when there was no chance of getting out because the people started clapping, calling author, author, author. And there he stood on the stage, and he looked such a small man because there's a slope up to it. Yeah. And people were just really, every newspaper was full of it the next day.
I'm aware, you've told me this, and I've read it in his writings, that he was actually quite a private man.
Yeah.
So how did he react to this fame?
He was invited to even give a talk or something. I think he even had an invitation for a board or something like this. But he said, no, he said, I've written something. They see what it's like. I don't want to travel miles and miles to give a talk or anything. He didn't like that. And you know, there's awful cocktail parties when they ask you at 6 o'clock in the evening. And this is something he detested. He said, there I am working all day long. By 6 o'clock, I'm tired or I'm hungry. And you get there and they offer you, which then was gin and tonic or something like this. Yeah. And it just didn't excite him that much, you know. Mm-hmm. So he was always one to, I mean, an excuse or something that he was working or something. And true, most of the times he was working. And so, well, he loved working, but he felt it was a waste of time going out, either in the middle of the day for something. You see, when, before Alfie even been thought of, a man called Douglas Claverton, who did most of the third program things at the BBC, asked one day, he said, I don't know who the head of it, I don't know, I forgot what he is called, Newby or something. Mm-hmm. But anyhow, he said he would love to meet you. And so Bill said, all right, it's got something to do with my work. He went to have lunch at the BBC. And then this man said, have you got something for us, you know? And we always thought it was happy days when the BBC were asking you, have you got something? Yeah. Now people have a struggle to get anybody to accept something. So Bill said, no, I haven't got anything that I can think of. So after lunch, he walked home from the BBC along Whitehall, and by the time he came home, Alfie was born, so to speak. The first few words about Alfie went down, and he thought, well, I could write something about Alfie.